afternoon, we have another great afternoon of speakers. And our first speaker is going to be talking about those shiny objects. Her name is Consuela Munoz. Did I say that right?
Yeah, that's close. So it's Munoz, and the way to think of it is like moon in the sky, Yos.
Okay, Munoz. And Consuela is a consultant in leadership engagement and strengths coach. She's the founder of C School and CEO Way. She's the author of HER, Her Story, The Day She Stopped. And for over 12 years, she's worked with leaders, corporate teams, and business owners to ignite powerful leaders, generating unexpected results. As a global strength leader, she specializes in unleashing and maximizing human potential based on the greatness and unique potential each person has. So I want to welcome Consuelo, and she is going to be talking about how to defeat those shiny object syndrome.
So a gentleman showed up at his friend, the farmer's house. He was going there to see his friend, the farmer. And when he got there, he wasn't there. But the farmer's wife was there, and she came out and said, you know, he's just up working in the field. Let me send someone up and call him back. It's not going to take very long at all. So why don't you go ahead and wait here for him to come back? So the friend agreed, and he waited for the farmer to return. It wasn't very long, and the farmer showed up with his dog. They came walking out of the forest to the farmhouse. And he noticed right away that the dog was like panting really heavily. And so he said, hey, is the field really far away? And the farmer's like, no, it's not that far. Why do you ask? And the friend said, well, your dog is like panting and it looks exhausted. But wait, you don't look exhausted. What's going on with that? And the farmer replied, well, when I got the call, we started back on the same path. And as we're walking on the path, the dog noticed a bunny, and it went chasing the bunny, barking and yapping and being crazy, and then came back to the path. A little bit further, and he saw a squirrel in the tree, and the bunny or the dog went chasing after the squirrel, barking and being crazy. And he finally came back to the path. And shortly after that, the two of us emerged from the woods and showed up here at the farmhouse. And so you can see that is why the dog is exhausted, because it was chasing every distraction that jumped out at us. Well, I just walked on the path until we got here. And so that's what we all need to decide. Are we going to be the farmer and walk straight on the path? Or are we going to be the farmer's dog and get distracted by everything that comes in front of us? And if we think about it, that's really what shiny object syndrome is, especially for entrepreneurs. We are chasing from idea to idea. And it almost becomes like a behavior that we become addicted to, right? And did you guys know that 9 out of 10 small business owners say that during their business journey, they suffered from shiny object syndrome at least once? 9 out of 10. And honestly, you guys, I think that 10th one was fibbing, you know? And so if you've ever suffered from shiny object syndrome, I want you to put a hashtag SOS in the chat. Now I say SOS because it truly is a call for help. And also, I just don't want to keep saying shiny object syndrome the rest of the day, right? So, but go ahead and put that in the chat if you've ever had shiny object syndrome yourself. And so Patty's done a lovely job of introducing me, but I do want to say, so I am Consuela Munoz. I am the founder of C School, CEO Way, and now Impact Makers Playground. I've worked with leaders and corporate teams and business owners to really ignite that powerful leadership that's generating those unexpected results. I am a Gallup certified strength coach and have worked with, maximizing human potential based on everyone's greatness and their unique strengths. And now leaders work with me to defeat their shiny object syndrome, because most think they're awesome at multitasking, and they're in denial about how much time they're wasting and how much money they've lost. So I help them systemize, strategize, and anti-squirrelize their business so they never leave money on the table. Because the bottom line is, we want to go from idea chasers to impact makers. I mean, most leaders are chasing those ideas and live in a world where there's massive ideas and shiny objects, and that behavior becomes addictive. And some, they have systems in place, but they're jumping from idea to idea and never getting that traction. And many leaders suffer from chronic FOMO, squirrelitis, and they just need an intervention to stop the madness. You all deserve to go from that idea chaser to an impact maker. But the problem with SOS is that it's part of what makes entrepreneurs great at being entrepreneurs, right? It's that double-edged sword, because we need it. We're the ones that come up with those ideas and have the initiative and the motivation and just a touch of impulsivity, if we're honest, right? That we're going to chase those ideas, that we're going to do those things, that we're going to take the risks. It's when it goes too far that we can get ourselves into trouble, right? So we're on the path, we think we know what we're doing, and we have all these ideas. We're being overwhelmed by ads. We're seeing everything that's thrown at us, to the point where we have so many ideas going on in there that what was once a clear path is now like 10 forks in the path. And which one am I supposed to take? And what am I supposed to do next? And we need to figure out some way so that we can clear all that away and have one straight path to follow again. And so today I'm going to help give some proven, simple yet effective tools that can help you navigate that ever-changing day-to-day demands and stop chasing those ideas so you can actually monetize your abilities and your strengths. You're going to walk away with 5 vital steps to discover how you can systemize, strategize, and anti-squirrelize your business. So never again do you feel like you're leaving money on the table. You're going to start to eliminate those stop starts, those pauses, those I have to refocus and recalibrate where I am, and start capturing that success through focus and fun. Got to have some fun, y'all. And you'll also learn how you can connect with me further to see how I can support you beyond today. Now, I talked a bit about that, entrepreneur's mind, right? And at one point I was studying to be a chemist. I did succeed at that. I am a chemist, right? I don't do anything with chemistry except baking. But I was studying to be a chemist, and I was working in a lab, and one of the old guys came up and said, you know what you need to do? You got to go and get your chemical engineering degree. And so I was polite and said, oh, okay, thank you. I'll check into that. I'll look into that. But in my mind, I was like, are you kidding me? I am not an engineer. I know I'm not an engineer. I'm going to be a chemist. I'm not going to be an engineer. But even at that time, I didn't realize that what kind of mind I had was an entrepreneur's mind. But then when you start thinking back on it, you're like, okay. And you start figuring out, like, I've always been this way, and this is what it's called, an entrepreneur. So around the time, I was pretty young pup, probably about 8, I decided that I was going to throw a stand-up comedy show for the other kids in the neighborhood. I was one of the older kids in the neighborhood, right? I'm going to throw this show. And of course, if I'm having a show, there needs to be a ticket, right? So we're going to have this show up at my friend's house. She had this great stage. I mean, it was a porch, but it was a really wide porch, right? And there were like 8 steps that went up to the top. So it was like really elevated, and they were really wide steps. And at the base of these steps was this like big, sidewalk, cement sidewalk, right? Perfect place for my audience. I mean, the other kids to sit, right? So if they're going to come in, they got to have a ticket. So I made my sister, because I'm the oldest, so I made my sister collect the tickets for the show. And you have to worry about what can the market bear, like how much can they afford. And since I'm dealing with like 4 to 8-year-olds, the cost to watch my show was a penny. Not all the kids had a penny. So what we said, if you didn't have a penny, then y'all need to bring a shiny pebble. My sister's taking these tickets, and she was in charge of deciding, is that pebble shiny enough? Is it cool enough for you to get into the show? And so even at that point in my life, though I didn't know what it was called, I was an entrepreneur, and I was creating something to have people come to. Now, if you've ever realized that it's whenever you realize that you were entrepreneuring when you were a kid, that you started any kind of business, I want you to put a hashtag shiny pebble in the chat. I know a lot of you probably have. I've talked to a few of you on here. I know that you've done that, right? And started those things when you're young. And so that is something that's always with us, and that's part of who we are. But again, that double-edged sword, when it gets out of control, what are we going to do? We have to figure out what our strengths are. So sometimes we're kind of in denial about whether we have shiny object syndrome and whether it's distracting us or not, right? So I've come up with a few ways for us to be able to tell, is shiny object distracting you? So here they are. If your first instinct is to buy that domain name, you might have SOS. If you would rather spend an hour looking through your junk drawer to find your favorite best pen than making those sales calls, you might have SOS. If you are generating business ideas while you're sleeping, you might have SOS. If you currently have more projects started than there are days in the week, you might have SOS. If you are involved in more than one beta test at a time, you might have SOS. If you get an allergic reaction whenever someone says the words focus, consistency, or discipline, you might have SOS. And if you've ever changed your yearly goal every 3 months, you might have SOS. And so those are a few ways you can tell that you have SOS. But if you're still not sure, I do have a quiz for you guys. And you can go out there and find out, do I have shiny object syndrome? Is it getting in my way? So that's what we're dealing with, and that's what we're up against. I like to compare it a lot to dieting, because most folks, I figure, at one point in their adult lives have decided to go on a diet. Now, if you go on a diet and you follow all the rules, you're going to lose some weight. If you don't follow the rules, probably not going to have a good result, right? But if you've ever been looking at a diet and like, I'm going to do this diet or that diet, and you go on the diet and they say, for me, you can never have chocolate again. I'm not doing that diet. I'll be like, I'm going to have to look for a different diet. But if they say, hey, you're going to do this diet, but you can have some chocolate every once in a while, now you're thinking, okay, this is a diet I can work with. And that's what we as entrepreneurs need. We need a system that we can use that's going to allow us some time to chase our ideas and some control around that, and not try to eliminate it completely, because it's what makes us us. but also in a way that we don't let it get out of control. Like if you had a diet that said, okay, you can sit on the sofa and eat chocolate bonbons all day, that might be a fun diet, but it's really not going to get you the result that you want. You know what I'm saying? So what are we going to do then? What are we going to do to have some rails around our shiny object, but still be able to succeed? So what I say, it's a spear. Can you see my hand? All right. So it's 5 things. We're going to strengths, understanding our strengths. I'm a total strengths nerd. That's why I'm a strengths coach, right? So we're going to look at strengths. Then you need to plan. You need to plan strong goals. And I know everybody plans a strong goal, but we're going to have to do something with it. So it's like this, just this side of concrete, right? And then we need to evaluate our ideas. We have all these ideas popping up, popping up, popping up. How do we evaluate them and decide what we're going to do with them? And then we need some accountability. I know some of you, your tummies are rolling right about now, hearing that word accountability, but we're going to have some, but we're going to follow it right up with reward. We got to have some rewards. It's got to be fun. And one of the things I say with the Impact Makers Playground is if it's not fun, it's not going to get done. Now, how many of you have ever been involved in some kind of accountability process that was annoying or frustrating or downright boring? Anyone? Just put like a 1 in the chat if you've ever, like, oh, we're going to do this accountability, and it turns into this, excuse fest. Like, oh, well, I was going to do the stuff, but I didn't do the stuff. And then next week it's, I was going to do the stuff, but I didn't do the stuff, to the point you're like, why am I even going to this? Right? So we want to make sure that it's fun. So we're not doing that, but it starts at the top with strengths, because one of the things about our strengths is that it can help us understand the reasons that the things that are most tempting for us. What kind of distractions are most tempting for you? So if you have learner high, you might be signing up for training after training after training. If you have achiever high, you might be like, no, I need that certification. I need that certification, until you have like a whole alphabet of letters behind your name from all the certifications that you've got, right? So knowing what our strengths are can help us do that. Now I'm just going to talk about strengths for just a minute. I can't help myself, y'all. So strengths, and I'm talking, just to be clear, I'm talking about Strength Finder, Gallup Strength Finder strengths assessment, versus like, we're not going to the gym and lift weights. That's if that's what you need, that's a different person. That's not me. So Strength Finder. So when you take this assessment, there are 34 strength themes, and you can either find out your top 5, or you can find out all 34 strengths in a row. And those 34 strengths are then broke into 4 leadership domains. And the leadership domain is where you really drive from, right? So you're going to find out these strengths. And when you get their strengths report back, it's nothing short of amazing. Getting the report back itself can boost your confidence by over 20%. 20% just from getting the results back. And why is that? Because it is this report. It is written in black and white, in words on a page, that come from somebody else telling you all the most amazing things about you. Like, this is why you are awesome. And so when you read that, you're like, dang. And the more you read, the more you're energized, right? But the thing about the strengths is, like, even if Patty and I had the same strengths, let's say, if you read her paragraph and you read my paragraph, you're going to be like, wait, those aren't the same. I thought you both had what? And so the thing about each strength is completely different based on the other strengths that are near it. So when I talk about your top 5 strengths, that's where your synergy is the greatest. And whatever those other 4 strengths are, affect the way that you use a certain strength. Understanding that is key to so many things, but it can also help us understand why I have to have a domain name for every idea I possibly have, just in case someone might get it before me, right? Or you're going on the socials, right? And someone's like just having their book launch, and you're like, dang it, I need to write a book. Like, I don't want to write a book, but I need to, because they got a book and they're doing well, and I need to have a book. So we got to find out what things are driving you. And that's where the strengths comes in. Now, the other things, people will ask me something like, well, I took the Strength Finder 20 years ago. I'm sure it's changed by now. And the thing about our strengths is they don't really change. That Consuela that threw the comedy show at 8 is the same me that I am now. And so you can have slight changes in your strengths over time, but where you drive from, that's not going to change. So maybe, your number 6 becomes your number 3 or something like that. But for the most part, they're not going to change that much. The only time they've really seen a big change in strengths, they had individuals that took the Strength Finder before 9/11 who survived 9/11. So very traumatic, their actual brain chemistry changed. And when they took the Strength Finder again, they had radical changes in that. But for most of us, we're not going to see a big change. Now, the other thing I'll hear is like, oh yeah, I took Strength Finder. I'll be like, oh, great. What are your top 5 strengths? I don't really know. I'd have to look them up, right? So my joke is that if you work with a strength coach, like a really good one, like me, if you work with a strength coach, you're not going to forget them, because you're going to be using your strengths every day to the point where you can easily know, like, oh, this is my strength here. This is my communication. This is my learner. This is my individualization. You can see them and realize them, and you start to use them with purpose. And that's what we want to do. We want to break this cycle of SOS, so then we can then move into being CEOs and using the CEO way, which is to celebrate our gifts, engage our strengths until we own our confidence. Because once we are at that point where we completely know what we're capable of doing, there's no room for doubt. There's no room for doubt. That imposter syndrome, psh, because when someone approaches you and say, hey, I did it this way, you should do it this way, you're going to be like, whoa, based on my strengths, that's not going to work for me. I'm going to do it this way instead. And you don't have no doubts and no, piling on from do it this 15 different ways, because you know the way that works for you. So that is why strengths is where we start. And that's why it's so important. The next really big key is the planning of the goals. Now I call them your gig and your bigs. Because one, they're fun. Like, who's not going to have fun saying, what's your gig, right? And so your gig is your ginormous impact goal for the year. And I know you probably heard of a BHAG, right? But who's got time for that? That's like your 15 to 25 year goal. We don't even know what could happen by next year. We don't even know what could happen in a month in these days, right? So we're going to focus on our gig. We're then going to focus on our bigger impact goals. And these are goals that can be separate, but whatever they are, they're in support of our ginormous impact goal for the year. And the thing about planning them so they're strong is, one, we don't want them to change every 3 months, right? We don't want to have to pivot. Like, oh, sorry, I have to take a drink. That's the rule. Where I was, every time you heard the word pivot, you had to take a drink, right? But we don't want to pivot every 3 months. So we have to set those goals strong enough and have enough meaning and why we're doing those goals, so that they don't change every time you learn about some new training or some new thing that you have to do. Now, we talked about the ideas. We have ideas just like going like crazy, but we need to take time to evaluate them, because otherwise we think we have to chase all of them. Now, I have an idea test that I have folks use to test. It's a simple test so that you can do it every time you have an idea, because you want to test it and decide, basically, is this idea that I'm looking at, this thing I'm looking to do, this business idea that I've thought of, is it going to help me get to my gig? If it's not, it goes, so I have 2 sides, right? I have this cool tool that we use. It's called the impact board. And there are 2 sides, the action side and the distraction side. And so if the idea is going to help you get your gig, it can go on action if it meets a few other requirements, right? If it's not, it goes on distraction, because we don't want to say, like, let's get rid of all the ideas that aren't for your gig. Some of them are absolutely brilliant. I mean, I know my ideas are brilliant, so I don't want to lose that idea. So I'm going to put it on distraction. And the great thing about it sitting there, it's right there. I can see it, but I can't touch it. No touch. I can't touch it because then I'm spreading my energy, and we don't want to do that. So we're only going to focus on the things that are on the action side, but we haven't lost it. But it also is not in here. We've taken all the ideas that are running around in here, and we take them out and we evaluate them and we put them where they need to go. So we've sorted them and we've stored them, and they're no longer in here. So that fog, that, oh, I got to pull back, I got to pause, I got to figure out what I'm doing, what my next path is, that goes away. Because now all our ideas are out there and we haven't lost them, but we're not constantly running through them and running through them. So we're going to put them on the impact board in their designated spots. And then we know the things that are in action, those are the ones we're going to do, because they're going to help us get our gig and nothing else. That's how we do that. Now, accountability, because let's face it, we all chase the shiny things. So if you've got this cool tool and you start using it, it's really exciting. And then next month you go to another training, or in this rate, next week you go to another training, and you're like, oh, and you forget about it. So how do we keep from forgetting about it? How do we keep using the tool? And so that's where I have the Impact Makers Playground. This is a community of all small business owners that really want to handle their shiny object syndrome. And so we meet together, we've got the group, we have people coming in every week talking to us about how to have that focus, that discipline, the consistency, all the different things we have to deal with, the fear of success, the fear of failing, all the things that we have to deal with that get in our way. They're going to come talk to us every week. Once a month, we're going to talk about how are we going to, answer any of our questions about, is this idea an action or a distraction? It's kind of on the fence. Where do I put it? How do I deal with that? And we're going to review that board, because we want at least once, I want everybody looking at that board, so we're using it to play. Now, I also said rewards, because I truly believe if it's not fun, we're not going to get it done. So if you're hanging out with me, you're having fun. So what we're going to do is every time you do something, you're getting points. And these points are going to go towards those rewards. Now, if you're not in my group and you're on your, do your own reward system, come up with a reward system of your own. Find an accountability partner, find an accountability group. They're that important. But in our group, we're getting points for everything, and we're going to earn some really cool prizes. Now, don't get excited. It's not like, a big screen TV, but there is some golden magnets and maybe a shiny pen, right? So we are going to do that. But the point is more that we earn them, because what is the true reward? The true reward is that we play with our impact board long enough to stay on the path and not follow those distractions, so we actually achieve our goals and we find that success and the money that we've been looking for. So with that, that's what we need to look at. We need to look at that, that addiction that we've all been dealing with, right? Of chasing that shiny object. And the thing about it, it gets to be a really slippery slope, right? Once we start chasing this new idea and this new idea, becomes addictive, and we need more and more and more and more shiny ideas to chase, more things to do that constantly keep us from having that forward motion. And I want to be your first step in breaking that cycle of SOS. And on behalf of Patty, I have a few spots open. If you would like to work with me, can have an SOS call to figure out what's working, what's not working, and what would you like to have working more? Because we need to figure out how we can break that cycle of SOS, so then we can become the CEOs we're meant to be, and we can start celebrating our gifts, engaging our strengths until we own our confidence. Now, some of you might be wondering, one, I said celebrate because, again, fun. If we're not having fun, why are we doing this? But one thing I want to point out about the celebrating is that when you take your strength finder, this is most people, you take the strength finder, the first thing you're going to do is, what is your number one strength? That's what you're going to look at. What are your top 5? Awesome. And what is the second thing you're going to do? You're going to go right to the bottom and say, what's at my bottom? And we can get really hanged up on what's at the bottom of our strengths. But with me, we're not going to focus on that. We're not going to focus on that because Who's got a lot of spare time? Anybody? If you've got like oodles of spare time to work, no one's got oodles of spare time to work on their development. So focusing on our top 5 strengths is more than enough. It's more than enough for us to focus on. So we want to celebrate what we do have. The other way that comes into in the celebration is, so let's say you don't have discipline. Let's say you have discipline at 34, like I do. I have discipline at number 34, right? And so because it's at 34 for me, how do I use the strengths I do have to get the results I need to make up for, or to be, in fact, that discipline for me? How does discipline look for me based on the strengths that I do have? And so that's really where we want to bring that focus in. So if you're suffering from, taking training after training and going after certification, putting yourself on pause while you recalibrate, while you refigure where you are, and you're ready to break that cycle, then I'd love to have you come talk with me. Now, I just wanted to share a quote with you guys. I don't even know who says it. It's a short thing, but I feel like this is where we need to be. And that is to starve your distractions and feed your focus. Who are you going to be? Are you going to be that farmer walking that straight path? Or are you going to be like the farmer's dog and chase every distraction that comes in front of you? So what do you want to do? What are the things that we've learned? We want to make sure we understand our strengths so that we can know what our distractions are going to be and be ready for them. We want to plan. We want to have those strong goals that are not going to be broken every 3 months. And we're going to evaluate our ideas so that they are not in control of us. We are in control of them. And then we're going to make sure that we have some kind of accountability towards going towards those goals. And definitely we're going to reward ourselves. We're going to find a way to make sure that we're having fun while we stay on the path, because chasing the shiny things is a lot of fun. And we have to make sure that staying on the path is more fun than chasing those shiny new things. And with that, are there any questions? I'm thinking we have time for questions. I don't know, have there been any questions, Patty, or?
I didn't see any questions, but there are a lot of comments there from Jen and Lily. Maybe they have something they'd like to ask you, or Paige, did you have something you want to ask?
Is the quiz set up so we can schedule a call with you at the end of it?
Yes. At the end of the quiz, you're going to get my guide, which is 10 simple techniques to defeat shiny objects syndrome for entrepreneurs. And yes, you can schedule a call with me. I did put the link in here as well, though, if you wanted to schedule a call.
So we do have some time, Consuela. Can you just share with us maybe some of the shiny objects you chased that maybe you shouldn't have, or some of your clients?
Well, I don't know if we have that much time, Patty, but I did want to, as when y'all take the quiz, you'll see. So it goes up to whether you have a mild, a moderate, or a strong case of SOS. And I tip the scale, I'm at severe. Okay, y'all, I have a severe case because, so you think, here's my strengths, right? So I have communication and woo, and then I have futuristic, which is total idea generating machine. I literally am, making ideas in my sleep, right? And then I have positivity, which tells me that everything that I come up with is brilliant. It's brilliant and it's going to work perfectly. That's positivity. But then number 5, I have activator, and activator says, okay, let's go. Here's the plan. Let's go. And so I don't have to stop and think about it like other people do, right? Which is good and which can get me into trouble. And then you just add in that I have consistency, focus, and discipline all in my bottom 5. So it's a strong case. It's hard to get on. So, and I did want to share with y'all what the impact board looks like in case you're wondering. I got to go back here so you can see all of it. And so you see that I've got the gig on there and the bigs on there and my actions and distractions. And so for me, it's that thinking I need a certification. So this year alone, I'm using this, and I have this brilliant idea while I'm sleeping. So I have this idea for an experience, and everyone I've told this experience, they're like, oh, where is that? When is that? Like, people want to do this. It's amazing, but it has nothing to do with my gig, nothing. And so it's on distraction. It's sitting there and it's lovely and I'm not doing anything with it, but I'm not thinking about it either, like running through it, like how would I do it and building it and anything, because it's sitting there and it's waiting for its time. Now, one of the things that is on my action side is to work with an image lady, right? An image consultant. She happens to be a lady that I'm working with. And as soon as I'm taking her class, what is the first thing I want to do? I want to get certified so I'm as trained as she is. I know, I see you laughing, Patty, because that is like, oh,
sounds all too familiar.
I should probably get that certification. Like, I work with women and men in confidence and knowing what to wear and how to attract people. That would be like a big tool for me to have. But like, whoa. I don't need this certification. I don't need to know everything she knows. I need to know her contact information and I can say, hey, I'm doing amazing. This is who you should go talk to. But my first instinct was, I should probably get certified in that. And then I had to stop myself and say, that doesn't help me. It'd be cool, it'd be fun, but it wouldn't help me get my gig. And so it goes on distraction, because maybe someday I will, but I'm not doing it today, right? And so that's the thing, like when we're reviewing every month, like that's on there. But after a month, I was like, why do I even have this on for later? Because I don't need to do this. I can just work with her as a JV partner and send people her way and she'll send them mine. So that's like been removed from distraction and into discard, because it doesn't need to be on my list anymore. But because I did that, I took it from here and I put it on the board and I let it sit there. And then I'm like, yeah, that I don't need that. And now I've removed it. So it didn't create any fogginess for me because it was never in there. I mean, it's not in there anymore. It's not on this board. It's gone. Now I had this other brilliant idea. It's amazing. And I put it on the board. And you know what I did for myself the one day? I was like, you know what? Again, this isn't something I need to do. This would be better for someone else to do. And so saying this made it easier. I'm like, I'm going to donate this idea to someone else that I think it would work better for. And so you can't imagine the feeling of just thinking about donating your idea. Like, oh, I don't need to work this. This could be the next thing. I imagine this is how like songwriters feel, right? They write this amazing song that everybody loves, but they gave it to someone else to sing. I imagine that's kind of like donating your ideas to someone else who can put them into place and really take them and run with them. And so, like, I'm trying to think, what are some other ones that I was like, whoa, don't put, but having the board for me makes it easier. Now, some people are like, well, why can't you just, you could just put that on the computer. Well, here's the problem for me. If it's on the computer, it's in a file. If it's in a file, I don't have to open it. I don't have to look at it. I don't have to do anything with it because it's over there and I don't have to deal with it. Now, if it's on this board hanging in my office, now I see it every day. And I can't escape it. And then you add in all the other people looking at your board. One of the fun things we're doing is show and tell. So you get to show off your amazing board to other people. And doesn't that make it fun? Like, we get to be kindergartners again and have show and tell, right? Like, how can we make it fun to play with our board all the time? Even daily. I know it makes an allergic reaction, but even daily to look at this and keep our focus really that up front.
So there was a question, and it was, how did you reform yourself from going to chasing every shiny object to being able to discipline yourself enough to know that you didn't need to chase everything and you didn't need to have every single certification that's out there?
So I still want them. It's still there. So as far as reform, it's working with accountability folks, right? Working with other folks. But it really, to me, and I know it seems like a simple thing, but I think because it's so simple is why it works, right? This board is a simple thing. Like, why should it work? But it's right there. And it's kind of like I can't break this rule. I can't do it. It's on the wrong side. I can't touch it. Even if I want to, I know it's over there. I can't touch it. And so that has made the difference. Now, for me, it's also working with other people, other small business owners that have, similar things that we can be accountable with. And that's the idea of this. Let's have a whole community of folks doing this. Now, I know from the statistic, right? 9 out of 10 of you are suffering from SOS. I didn't watch the hashtags go in there, but I can imagine even if you didn't put that in there, you probably have some level of SOS, right? So the more of us work together to keep each other on there while we're having fun doing it, that's what makes a difference. Because for me, if it's not fun, I'm not going to do it. It has to be fun, because how else is it going to last long enough for me to stick with it before I jump to that next thing? So when I'm talking about fun, some of you know this about me. Am I running over? Some of you know this about me. I'm like this close to crazy chicken lady status. Okay. So I haven't quite reached it because I haven't bought any leashes or, diapers to have them in the house. So I'm just this side of it. Right. But I've went from having 5 chickens to, as of mommy's day, I have 20 chickens. Okay. So when you go from 5 chickens, you're having maybe 1 to 2 to 5 eggs a day. I have 15 laying girls. So when you go to 15, a possible 15 eggs a day, you got to have a system. You can't not have a system, right? Excuse me. So, but for me, I kept dreading the system. So I had to make it fun. And let's face it, I like shiny things, not just ideas. Like I like bling. I like cute things. Like I have to have some beauty around me. It's just the way I operate, right? And so I have got this adorable antique looking egg scale. So now I can weigh every egg and see what size it is, right? Then I've got these fancy places to collect them by size. So that's nice. And I've got, a couple wash basins, because face it, I don't have running water in my chicken coop. Not yet. We'll see. And then I bought this super fancy egg drying thing. It's not meant for egg drying, but that's what I'm using it for, right? So I've got this whole wash them, rinse them, dry them, put them in the boxes, like I have this system. The system is important. Making sure that you enjoy using the system is just as important for it to actually work. If it's not fun, it's not going to get done. A lot of egg salad. I don't even eat egg salad.
I'm just looking at that. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't eat egg salad, but now give me some scrambled eggs every morning. That's where I am, right?
Anybody else have a question here for Consuela about her system or what she's doing?
Crazy chickens, whatever.
So you had a free gift that you were giving. Do you want to tell us about that free gift? And I think they'll put the link in for it.
So the free gift was really take the quiz. You want to find out where you guys are. You want to know. You want to know how bad it is for you. And then with that, you can download the 10 simple ways to defeat shiny object syndrome for entrepreneurs. It talks about some of the things we're doing and a few more things, like we don't want to, spend all your time in social media, because that just boom, boost that FOMO through the roof. Now I'm also working on a VIP gift. I didn't have it ready at time of deliver today, but I will have a VIP gift, if you're okay, that I would like to add to your list after. And it's really a workshop taking you through how to set up your gig, how to do the idea test, so you have an idea how to test each idea that you're having.
Okay. So it'll be another gift on the VIPs. Boy, they just keep mounting up. We've had some wonderful gifts. I don't know if you were on earlier, Consuela, but one person was offering a mastermind class for a month free of charge. And then we had another program that was the 30-day program to build the foundation of your business with the VIP. And of course, mine was various videos on confidence and overcoming fear and procrastination, plus a ticket to my live event May 24 through 26 called Live Bigger, where we're going to take all this shiny object stuff and we're going to put it into a process where people can actually build out a program 90 days and see how productive they can be in 90 days. Because, with the system that I share, most people can do more in 90 days than they do an entire year.